to have gentlemen of your caliber at our fine fairgrounds.
Heads.
Or tails.
Come on, let me through. Heads.
Or tails.
Tails. Told you. I never find that as satisfying as I'd imagined.
Chin up, there's always next time.
I suppose there is.
A few weeks ago, we posted a list of 5 great game studios that are no longer with us. And in that video, we noted that there were a lot more studios out there and we would revisit the topic again very soon. Welcome back to Game Gentlemen. This week, we take a look at 5 more great game studios that are sadly no longer with us. Before we get started, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Number 5. LIONHEAD Studios. British game developer LIONHEAD Studios formed in 1997. Starting as a spin-off of Bullfrog Studios, which was also founded by LIONHEAD's Peter Molyneux, LIONHEAD Studios had as many games cancelled as they had actually published. LIONHEAD Studios' first game was a God Sim RTS developed for Windows and Mac, which was supposed to be ported to the Game Boy, Dreamcast and PlayStation 2. But it would be LIONHEAD's follow-up game Fable which would put the developer on the map. Fable was developed in 2004 and would make the beginning of LIONHEAD's relationship with Microsoft. LIONHEAD would develop PC titles Black and White 2 and the movies before being acquired by Microsoft in 2006. At this time, some of the LIONHEAD team would leave to form Media Molecule, and LIONHEAD founder Peter Molyneux would stick around until 2012 before resigning to form his own studio, 22 Cans. Under Microsoft, LIONHEAD Studios would develop Fable 2, 3, Heroes, and Fable the Journey. LIONHEAD's final project, Fable Legends, would never see the light of day, as in 2016 Microsoft announced it would be closing the studio and cancelling the title. Number 4. Irrational Games. Also formed in 1997, Irrational Games was started by 3 former employees of Looking Glass Studios, another developer which could have easily made this list. Irrational Games started with a bang by developing the critically acclaimed System Shock 2 for Electronic Arts. Don't worry, if you don't know the history of Irrational Games, Electronic Arts has nothing to do with their demise. Irrational Games would predominantly focus on PC games such as Freedom Force and SWAT 4 before being bought out by Take-Two Interactive in 2006. Shortly after the acquisition, Take-Two Interactive would name Irrational Games to 2K Boston, with its Canberra, Australia studio renamed to 2K Australia. And it would be under this name that they would develop their arguably biggest game, BioShock, to PC and Xbox 360 in 2007 and then to PlayStation 3 in 2008. It would be 5 years before they would develop their next title, BioShock Infinite, and in the time between the 2 titles, the studio returned to its original name. Following the release of BioShock Infinite, studio creative director Ken Levine announced that the majority of staff of Irrational Games would be laid off, keeping only a small team of 15 to shift focus on developing smaller games focusing on a replayable narrative. Irrational Games would rebrand itself as Ghost Story Games in 2017, with just 12 former members of Irrational Games. The studio is still owned by Take-Two Interactive, but we are yet to see any title announcement. Number 3. Silicon Knights. Canadian developer Silicon Knights was founded in 1992 by Dennis Dyack and started out developing games for Atari and DOS-based machines. Silicon Knights would develop their first console game, Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, for the PlayStation in 1996 and would go on to develop titles such as Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem, Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes, 2 Human, and X-Men Destiny. It's in 2 Human that Silicon Knights would find their undoing. In 2007, Silicon Knights would file a lawsuit against Epic Games for a failure to provide a working game engine, causing the developer to experience considerable losses. The suit claimed that Epic Games was sabotaging licensees of Unreal Engine 3 by missing their deadline of delivering a working version of the engine within 6 months of the Xbox 360 dev kits, and providing insufficient documentation when the engine was finally ready. Epic countersued Silicon Knights, claiming that they were aware that the engine was under development and that features may not be ready or suitable for their needs, and that Silicon Knights had made unauthorized use of Unreal technology and had infringed on Epic's intellectual property rights. In 2012, a judge ruled in favour of Epic, stating that Silicon Knights had deliberately and repeatedly copied thousands of lines of code from Unreal Engine and had tried to cover their tracks by removing Epic copyright notices and trying to pass the stolen code off as their own. The kicker in the situation? Silicon Knights had not only copied functional code into the engine, but had inadvertently copied non-functional code, including internal comments Epic's developers had left for themselves. Silicon Knights was forced to destroy all game code derived from Unreal Engine 3, allow Epic access to their servers, and recall and destroy any unsold copies of games containing the code, including 2 Human and X-Men Destiny. In 2014, following their loss in court, Silicon Knights had to file for bankruptcy. Number 2. ACCLAIM. ACCLAIM was founded in 1987 by 3 ex-Activision employees. In fact, the reason they chose the name ACCLAIM was because it would be alphabetically sorted ahead of Activision, a trick which Activision founders also did when they left Atari. ACCLAIM started out purely as a publisher. They would either outsource development of titles to other studios, or they would localize existing games from overseas developers who did not have an American branch. This would change in the mid-90s with the purchase of Iguana and Probe Entertainment, bringing both studios under the moniker ACCLAIM Studios. During its time, ACCLAIM was known for publishing titles across licensed properties including The Simpsons, Spider-Man, RoboCop, Alien, World Wrestling Federation, and the console ports of the first 3 Mortal Kombat games. ACCLAIM would be a powerhouse developer and publisher throughout the 90s and early 2000s. But poor game sales would lead to financial troubles and would force ACCLAIM to file for bankruptcy in 2004. A court ruling in 2005 would find ACCLAIM's founders and executives liable for the financial losses of ACCLAIM and seek $150 million in damages. Number 1. Midway. Another studio which, spoiler alert, had to go down the bankruptcy route, Midway was originally founded in 1958 as a manufacturer of amusement games. They would move into the arcade industry in 1973 and would spend 25 years developing and publishing arcade games and pinball machines before moving into the home console market in 1996. Midway's catalogue of arcade games would span classic titles such as Ms. Pac-Man, Space Invaders, Rampage, Strike Force, NBA Jam, and Mortal Kombat. While its console credentials include Doom 64, Rampage World Tour, Top Gear Rally, Ready to Rumble Boxing, and assorted Mortal Kombat titles from 1996 onwards. As demand for pinball and arcade machines declined in the late 90s and early 2000s, Midway would phase out these arms of the business, but that would not stop them from making a loss every year from the year 2000. The company would sustain this through financing the business with stock and debt offerings, and they would go on a purchasing spree of studios in Washington, Texas, California, and South Australia around 2004. Despite the expansion, Midway would continue to lose money year after year, and the developer would see various credit arrangements and ownership changes before filing for bankruptcy in 2009, with an estimated operating loss of over $700 million. So that's our list of 5 more great game studios that are sadly no longer with us. If there are any developers that you think we missed, be sure to check out our original video on the topic. Are there any developers on this list that you wish were still around? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Game Gentleman, and thanks for watching.